So, first of all, I just want to say hello and welcome everybody. Okay, good. I can read positive feedback that you can see and hear. Okay, wonderful. So the recording is now off, and so before starting the recording and before saying hello to our guest speaker today, we would like to apologize for yesterday, as we wrote also in the Facebook group, because we had connection. We had problems with, due to the high numbers of participants, and as you could see yesterday, myself, I was shut out of the system. So sorry again. We are trying to fix another, to arrange another appointment with David Marsh and Gisela Langer, but it's going to be a bit difficult because David is in Mexico now, and he's got a lot of commitment. You know, he's very busy. But we'll try to. We promise we'll do our best to arrange a video recording with Gisela and David, and within the 5 weeks of our course, we promise we'll share the video, the recording, and they say hello. They apologize as well, but you know, with this new number, technology can be tricky. So just the volume. Okay, but I'm not going to speak that much. It's okay, the volume. Okay, yes, it's for the participant. Okay, good. So just before starting the recording, just to say, yes, you've seen the week 1 content on the Moodle. So we just would like to remind you that the Moodle is the real, you know, the environment where the real training takes place, and Facebook is just a facilitator, just for, especially for the Italian participants. But you know, the real environment is the Moodle. So don't worry if you have problems, because we've read some problems in the Facebook. First of all, you have 1 week, and so you can just maybe have a look today and then maybe go back tomorrow, and consider that this training lasts 50 hours. It's 50 hours. So during the week you can just go spend some hours when you want. And these webinars are not compulsory. So if you are not able to attend all of them, don't worry, because they're not compulsory, and you can see the recording later. So now I can just before starting the recording, I would like Patrick to try the microphone and the webcam, so that we can be sure that everything is okay, and then we can introduce you. And I want also to you to be. I want to give the floor to Danielle as well. Patrick, can you try speaking?
Yes, I can.
Okay, but I'm afraid we can see you. Is okay with the? Are you okay with the webcam? Okay,
Yeah.
great, wonderful, wonderful. Just to try everything out. Okay, so we'll just give you the floor in 1 minute. Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Daniela, you want to try the microphone and the webcam so that I can start the recording? Okay. Okay, so I start the recording now. Okay, very good. Welcome everybody to Techno CLIL for EVO 2017. So EVO is session is Electronic Village Online. So Techno CLIL is a part of Electronic Village Online. It is an international, and the training is a free online training initiative from the 9th of January till the 11th of February. So, as you know, Daniela and I are the moderators of this initiative, and Nelly Deutsch is our Moodle and tech support, and she's here with us today. And thanks God, everything is brilliant today, and also thanks to Nelly. So, thanks Nelly, thanks. So, just would like to say a few words before introducing our guest speaker today. So this webinar is part of the initiative because the training pathway is made up of asynchronous activities on the Moodle platform and synchronous webinars with experts international experts that volunteered and so accepted to cooperate with us just for free, just for volunteering. So just thank you, Patrick, and all our speakers, because it's just a community of experts passionate about CLIL that accepted to cooperate with us. You find here the link to the Moodle platform, where I'm sure everybody is registered, but just in case, you have the link here, and you have our email addresses that I guess you have. The training session is also promoted by the school, the Giordanistriano in Naples, Italy, which is Daniela's school. So of course, we have to thank, of course, the headmaster and the school, because this initiative allowed us to be able to issue the certificate, which is going to be officially recognized by the Italian Ministry of Education within the national training plan. So now I want to give Daniela the floor before introducing Patrick. Yeah, Daniela.
Hello, everyone. Just a few words to say how to join us to the social networks. As you know, as well as in the Moodle platform, where there is the official course, you can follow us on Twitter, and this is the idea, just to stay up to date in the events in real time. You can follow us, you can hear the references, and you can also use the hashtag Techno CLIL 2017. Then you will know that there is the Facebook group. It is Techno CLIL for EVO 2016 and 2017. And you can watch the recordings if you cannot follow the webinar online in real time. You can follow that, following us on the playlist in YouTube, Edita Cingianotto and Daniela Piccoli. We have also added a Telegram channel. Here you can see the link, telegram.me /technoclil. And if you want to send an official email to us, you can use our official email account, lej.technoclil@gmail.com. So please stay in touch with us and all the webinars and the course on the enjoy. So now leave the floor to Patrick, and I thank you for giving us this great opportunity with us, and as we say later on, follow you on the forum, as we see the special guests as the forum leader.
Yes, because just one more word before giving the floor to Patrick is that Patrick is the second year that Patrick accepted to join us, and last year, the great success. His webinar was just a huge success, as Nelly remember, and some of the participants here can remember. So thank you again, double thanks. And so Patrick is an expert in CLIL, in particular in maths. And is from Netherlands and has been working with CLIL for since 2007, and is the chief editor of CLIL magazine and also the web editor of CLIL Media. The website is going to tell you about. And a double. We are also double grateful because, as Daniela said, he's going to moderate the expert forum of week 1, where you can find him and ask him questions and follow up. Thanks again, Patrick. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Now, just checking, can you all hear me well? Because I see some things going on that people are saying the audio is not that good. Yes, everyone is saying it's good. All right, very good. Let's go to my PowerPoint then. Perfect. Now, okay. Anyways, what I'd like you to do now is I'll just cancel my webcam. That helps. Let's see if that helps. What I'd like you to do is write down what is the biggest CLIL challenge you face. Write it down in the chat. I'm going to give you a minute to do that, so we can make sure that everything works. And meanwhile, you can write down what your biggest challenge is. So I see methodology and change classroom scenarios. Speak in English for one time. Methodology. So it's more about applying the CLIL idea. Okay, now there's a lot going on, but I see that there's a lot of things going about the methodology. So what is CLIL and how to use it in your lesson? I guess that is a lot of you are talking about. Cooperative learning, I see there. Yeah, that's what you get when you have 200 people in a chat room. It's going all on this now. Okay, so methodology. What is CLIL and what can you do with CLIL in your classroom? Now, I myself am a CLIL coach, and I talk about this a lot with my fellow colleagues, and I'm going to talk about that in this PowerPoint presentation. Sorry, as well. So in the next slide, so this is what we're going to talk about today: how to effectively use language in a mathematics lesson. I'm going to do that using a variety of ways. But first, let me say a little something about me. Who I was already introduced, so I'll do this really quickly. That's me shining in the picture. And on the left you can see CLIL magazine. I'm chief editor of that magazine, which has been around for some time. And you can read a lot of interesting articles about CLIL in that magazine. It's written by CLIL experts and teachers. You can just read it for free. During this webinar, I'll be linking to a couple of Google Docs, and if you go to this website, clilmedia.com/CLIL-webinar, you will find the links to those different documents. So there's a document that I will use later on, and it's also use a document for categorizing stuff. You will see it later on. But for now, if you could, please open a second tab and go to that link. Brilliant. Thank you, Nelly. So I will be referring back to those documents in a minute, and also you can download the PowerPoint from there. Yeah, it's correct that it's just Daniela there, because some people said the audio wasn't that good. I wanted to improve it. Is it better like this? Is it too low now? Because I'm still going in red a little. Okay, so next slide. We keep talking too long about different things. So what I want to do is to inspire you to create language activities, and I want to talk with you about these things. Now, I'm going to do this really quickly because I have to stop at 8, and there's some slides to go through. So let's do this first. Now I'm going to ask you a question, and what I want you to do, answer them. Say if you agree or not, don't agree with them. So here we go. The first one. CLIL teacher is a language teacher. Now some of you might remember this from last year. I did a couple of these, will be similar to last year, but is every CLIL teacher a language teacher? A lot of no's coming through. No, 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 I don't think so. Well, it's sometimes agree, I agree, no, 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 oh, don't agree, no. Lots of people who don't agree. But Titia says yes. A few yeses, not necessarily, I see there. Yes, 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 no, no, disagree with a lot of ease. Okay. Now, if we can't agree on something like this already, how can we be talking about CLIL as a methodology? How can we talk about using this in lesson if we don't even agree on something as basic as this? Is every CLIL teacher a language teacher or not? Apparently you guys don't know that as well, or are not sure about that at least. My opinion is every CLIL teacher is a language teacher, but I'm a math teacher. I don't teach English grammar. So that's the difference. I might focus on the language of mathematics and the English phrases. I myself am from Holland, I'm Dutch. So I could focus on the English phrases of maths and give feedback on that. But I don't have to talk about simple present or present continuous in my lessons. Particularly because I've got no clue what they're all about. So it wouldn't be very not nice of me to do that. I would only confuse the kids. But language is still a vehicle for me to teach my content through, and that's something I will talk about later on as well. So I I'm not a language teacher in a way that I have to teach grammar, but I am a language teacher in a way that I use language as a vehicle and I provide feedback on the effective use of language. Now, we'll talk about common math problems later on, so you can see what I mean. Next question. Every CLIL math teacher should motivate language output. Yes, agree, yes, 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 yes. Oh, well, agree on something there. Very good. Obviously, this is not just for CLIL math teachers. This is for every CLIL teacher, and it's one of the vital parts of CLIL. You have to get students to create language output. Be it written, be spoken, be a combination, I don't really care. As long as there is language output, that's something that you should focus on. Anyway, so let's go on. We agree on this one. Teaching in a second language limits my options for different explanations. So, yes, that's something, that's a bit of a more personal question. But if it's something that, you know, limits you, so if you are myself and would be able to explain things in Dutch in like 5 different ways, would teaching in English limit those 5 ways of explaining into only 1 or 2? See, a lot of no's. Oh, now I see a few yeses. Okay. It's a good thing if your language is not it doesn't limit you. But especially if your own level of language isn't that high, it might provide a challenge for yourself. And that's something you should not be worried about. Now this is a bit of a, okay, every mathematics activity is void of any language. Obviously, I mean this in a CLIL context, because I teach in a CLIL context. And I see a lot of people saying no. Indeed, that's absolutely not true. Even if you just explain something in your own mother language, you're still using a language as a vehicle for your instruction. So there is language there, and there are subject terms that you have to use a lot. In my case, for example, perpendicular or bisector are mathematical phrases that should absolutely be in math lesson. So those were just a few things to get you to think with me. I hope by now that mathematics is a language that's creative. Indeed, it's true. That's what makes CLIL in math sometimes a bit tricky, because there's numbers around. Anyways, I hope by now that you've been able to have a look at the CLIL webinar website. So you have found the 2 links that I wrote down there, the Google Doc for pros and cons of CLIL, and the Google Sheet for rating the activities, because I'll talk about those in a minute. But let me just first talk about these 2 things. In my opinion, a CLIL activity should include 2 things. It should always generate language output, and it should encourage active learning. And with that, I mean that students should be activated, and it doesn't mean that they have to stand up, walk around, start running, etc. They should be active learners, so they should be participating, they should be helping each other out, and they should be dependent upon each other. I'll give you a few examples of these in a minute, but that's not really revolutionary. You know, getting students to learn actively is something that's been around for decades. It's not something CLIL exclusive, but combining that with the language components, so getting students to also generate language output, that is CLIL. And if you include these 2 things in a CLIL activity, you already have majority of CLIL in there. It's different from, for example, the 4 C's that CLIL talks about, because I'm not talking about culture, I'm not talking about cognitive skills like the thinking skills of Bloom, but I'm trying to simplify it, because, of course, there's a lot of background information regarding CLIL, and there's a lot of things that you can talk about, but I want to simplify it so you can use it in your lesson tomorrow. So, this is, in my opinion, what a CLIL activity should include, and I will talk about a couple of these in a minute. But first this, can you think of something negative regarding CLIL? And if it works correctly, you should be able to go into the Google Doc and just type in there. And otherwise you can just write it down on a piece of paper if you want to. But I'm just curious, because obviously this is pro CLIL community going on. But I want you to realize there's also some things that could go wrong. And mentioning those might actually help us realize that we can tackle those problems. So I see some things coming up in the chat as well. More active students, more work to prepare lessons. So that's a pro and a con. More active students, if you use CLIL effectively, and more work to prepare lessons. Yeah, indeed, more work. I see some more people say that. And that's why I'm here, basically. I want to help you to make sure that it's not a lot of work by providing you with some ready-to-use activities in a minute. Alright, more work, more work. A lot of work alerts. I can't think of something negative. Well, some people did it for you a minute ago regarding... yes, there is a baby in the background. Don't worry, we'll go to sleep in a minute. Anyways, so the negative thing being more time, takes more time to create things. Now, there's a few really good books out there about CLIL that give you some ready-to-use activities, and I'll do the same thing in this webinar. So, by now we've almost 200 people, 300 people in here, so it's getting really chaotic to put it all in the chat. I'll try to keep up or go up and down. Alright, in the Google Doc I see people typing as well. Also, see here, more active students and also more work to prepare lessons. That's something that I hope to help you with in a minute. Very positive, okay. Mastering I'm trying to read with the person who's writing that now. Mastering this disciplinary language. So being able to correct students is more difficult in CLIL, okay. CLIL activities should be more funny, more work, positive for students. It sounds interesting, well it's convenient. Could be boring for students. Well, that's not what CLIL should be. Positive for students, more work for teacher, positive, more motivation. More motivation is a good thing. If you make sure that there's an environment going on where there's a positive learning environment, and you also create some people who want to learn by creating activities that they really like, they will be more motivated. I'm going to talk about those in a minute because otherwise this takes a bit too long. Indeed, more motivated students is also in the Google Doc. Very good. Now I see there's a lot of people typing it into the chat instead of Google Doc, which makes it a bit more difficult for me to keep track of. So I'll just go on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about different activities. So what we're going to do is this. Now this is a webinar, and I don't, just like in my lessons, I don't like teaching and then people just listening and doing nothing. They will always have a task which make sure that they have to do something during a certain activity. I'm going to do the same with you. So I'm going to show you 8 activities. I'm going to explain how you can use them in your lesson. But while I do that, I want you to rate them. I want you to rate these activities on 3 different ways. Now you can do this again on pen and paper if you just want to do that. You can also go to the website which was mentioned before, so clilmedia.com/CLIL webinar. You can go to the second one, the Google Sheet for rating activities. If you go in there, you will already find that I created a table there so people can fill in the title of the activity wherever they feel works best. So, please rate each activity on a scale of 1 to 4, and you have to rate these 3 things. The amount of prep time needed, where 1 is a lot of prep time and 4 is no prep time at all. So 1 being, very bad, takes a lot of time, and 4 none at all. You have to rate how easy the activity is to implement. So is it very hard to implement or very easy to implement, and the amount of language involved. I see people rating already. That's funny. I didn't even start the activities yet. How can you rate something? Anyways, amount of language involved. So these 3 things you have to pay attention to while you watch the activities pass by that I'm going to start with in a minute. as I said, if you go to clilmedia.com/clilwebinar, you can find the Google Sheet to use to fill out. So here we go. That's what I just said. You can also do it in the chat, but I'm afraid I won't be able to really give you any feedback in the chat. So, first activity. So in the next activity, please rate it on. Why are people okay? In the first activity, rate it in these 3 ways. Find your partner. So I did this just before Christmas break. Let me show you. Students receive a card with an assignment. In my case, it was a calculation. I'm not sure you can see it. This is a little card, and this says t minus the square root of 9. And someone else got, for example, square root of 144 plus 5. And they had to find each other. They had to calculate what was there, and then find a partner who had a question that results in the same answer. So they first had to calculate it, and then come up with the answer, and then find someone else with the same answer. Once they found their partner, there were also questions on the back of the card. So this is a very small card, and with on the back a question. One of the questions would be something like, explain what this is, and it would be a topic that they didn't know yet. They had to look it up in their books. And the other question would be something like, calculate this, so they have to apply it. If they did that, they would come to me and I would check the answers and they could start on their work. And when everyone was finished, I would be able to discuss them and talk about the new stuff going on. Now someone said, can I please write the link in the chat? So I'll just do that. Here we are. So this is something that you can use. That's okay, take your time. This is something you can use to recap something, but I in this case used this to introduce a new topic. So students had to really come up with things themselves. Let me just see if I can. I see people rating it. Very good. Some people are rating it that it takes a lot of preparation time and very easy to implement, and language involved is 3 out of 4. Okay, meaning that there's actually a lot of language involved because students have to talk with each other, and afterwards we talk with each other. And I understand the part where you have to prepare a lot. That's indeed true. This is one of the activities that takes quite some prep time. I'll give you a few in a minute that don't take any prep time at all. This one, of all the activities we're going to do now, is the one that takes most time. You have to create those cards. Now I am very careful with these cards, so I can use them again next year. And I hopefully won't have to prepare it all again then. Just one way to work with this. So, that was activity 1. Activity number 2. Here we go. Create an assignment. Now, teacher explains me. Explains a framework to the students to follow in order to create their own assignment. I mean, and I'm going to relate this to maths because that's my subject. I would, for example, say, create an assignment with a plus, a times, and numbers no greater than 10. It will be a way to practice rules of order. So where do you do times first or plus first? So that's something that works for me. Now what they do is they create their own assignment, and then they switch notebooks, they swap them. So they start working on the assignment of their neighbor, and then they swap back. So they have to check that with each other. The easiness of this thing is, it doesn't require any prep time from me. All I need to do is create a framework which, well, quite often I think of on the moment itself, really. I don't prepare this activity at all. My students are actually quite used to doing this quite a lot, have to write in each other's notebooks. Well, flipping the classroom suggests that you explain everything at home, really, right? And work in class. I don't really do that. Anyways, so this is something that doesn't require prep time, but there is a lot of language involved because students have to, of course, agree on the answers and make sure that they understand it. All right. Next one. math market, this one requires a bit of prep time again. So they pair up and they choose an assignment to do from a selection of activities printed on a separate piece of paper. Now, I did not think of these activities myself. I just copied them from the book, really, because apparently when students get a loose piece of paper with an assignment, it's way more interesting than if you have to do it from the book. I don't understand it, but it works. So I provide them with activities on a piece of paper, and then they choose the ones that they find tricky. For example, a great way to recap things at the end of the chapter. And they'll simply return to me, and I check the answer, and if it's correct, they get a new assignment. So I just do this for like 15, maybe 20 minutes, and they're walking around, asking me for help, working on the topics that they find interesting, because obviously some people might find paragraph A to be very hard, and other people might find paragraph B to be very hard. So they can choose what they find hard. So differentiation, difficult word, is key here. And they can just help each other out and obviously ask me for help if needed. Now this is something that you can do in a regular lesson as well, but I would like to do this in a CLIL lesson and obviously implement the CLIL aspect of language here. So they are active, they are working, they are dependent on each other, because not doing anything is not really an option. But they also have to talk. So let me just see if people are filling out the Google form. I see quite a few people filling it out. I see a lot of people typing in crosses, which of course gets a bit tricky after a while if we don't know which activity we are at anymore. You might want to write down the name of the activity or something like that, so you know where you placed it. Anyways, I'm just assuming that the last few rows are about the current activity, which means that preparation time is now being filled in. Need some prep time indeed, 2, maybe 3. Some people find 2 is when it comes to easiness of implementation, so not very easy to implement. But I think there's a lot of, if you teach history, for example, there's always some recap questions, right? So you can implement any subject. I just focus on maths right now. So, next one. By the way, if you can't really, type in the table and listen to me at the same time, and maybe you want to take notes as well, that's all fine. Yeah, you can also just listen. It's fine with me. I just want people to, if they want to, be a bit interactive and not lay back and do nothing. I don't like that. So, next one. Standing up game. I do this one quite often, and it's a blast, really. Students have to answer questions asked by me by writing down the answer in their notebooks. It's very important that they write it down, because you need to be able to check it at the end. What I do is, I'm going to write down a very short question on screen, and it should require a very short answer. So it shouldn't require an answer that takes like 3 minutes to work. So this one should require only 30 seconds to answer. And when all students answered, I'll choose one student, and if for the answer, and he or she has to explain it. And then if you have it correct, you stay standing, and if you have it wrong, you sit down. And even if you sit down, you have to keep participating, because you can be asked for the answer at another time. I use this in math class quite often, and you'd be amazed. Even 15-year-olds find this very amusing. You might not want to do it every lesson, but even 15-year-olds find it very interesting to laugh at each other when they have to sit down. But of course, if you prepare this a bit more, you can also see if they fall into the traps that you set them. So if you ask them a trick question, how many people actually fall for that question? Some other tips that I use, you might want to say only 2 more, so they know, okay, if I finish these 2, I have 1. I'm providing candy as a prize. Always works. So if we just really quickly look at the rating, I see some people filling it out. It doesn't require any prep time, I think, barely any. But the amount of language involved is, of course, less than with the previous ones, because there's not that much interactivity between the students. It's more teacher-student based, which is fine. It's just that you should realize that. Make sure that there's not too much teacher-student time only. What you can see now? I don't quite understand the question, sorry. So I would use this at the end of the chapter again to recap things, or just at the end of a paragraph to see if they understood. And it takes only 10 minutes, but it's a great way to activate them, or do it at the end of the lesson as a way to make sure that they are motivated to keep going. Then the alphabet. This is my #1 favorite CLIL activity. Not in the least because it provides a huge benefit for a huge boost in their confidence. What school, a type of school? I teach in the secondary, so I teach 12 to 15-year-olds. Yeah. Anyways, so what I wanted them to do is write down the letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, and I'm going to give them 2 minutes to write down as many different words as they can. So I want them to use different letters, so not just bicycle and bad, but that only counts as one. But for example, I would do that after about 6 months in, and I would tell them to only use words they didn't know when they were primary, but they do know now. The great thing is, of course, that they are totally focused on language, and you might want to, at the end, also talk about some new words that they might want to find. There's a game element here. They can win, which is always a good thing. But what I find most interesting is the end part, because that's where I'll put the alphabet on screen, and the person with most words gets to fill it out, what he or she has found. But afterwards, I'll just ask all the students to come forward and write down words that they have found. So it's complete chaos, which is fun, of course. And afterwards, they sit down, and I have a huge, my screen is entirely full of words. And then I tell them, realize that the assignment was, write down words that you didn't know a few months ago and do know now. And then they're like, whoa, we already know a lot already. Which is, of course, great to keep them from, or to boost their, okay, sorry, I got distracted. To boost their confidence. So, you can do it at any moment in time. You can also do it in 3rd grade, so with 50-year-olds, and tell them to use words that they used only, that they were taught only this year, or from this chapter only, or whatever. That's you can limit it the way you want it to yourself, of course, as well. Use it for history, of course. There is a lot of phrases that are specifically used in history. The assignment could also be use words that you use at maths, but not in other subjects, or in your case in history. For example, the term BC might be something that I don't use a lot in maths. So, no, so, let me just see. No prep time at all. See some people filling it out. Easiness of a lot of people wrote down easiness of implementation too. I think that was for the previous one, I think. Okay. I thought that people would write down the title, or at least the letter of the assignment. I should have clarified that a bit. All the crosses make it a bit unclear now. So, sorry about that. Next one. Bingo. Now, this is again a game-ish assignment. So I want them to write down the 10 most important words, the words that they think are most important. And actually I'm asking them to create some kind of summary, but that's not, they don't realize that. So I ask them to make a list of the 10 most important words of a certain topic, and then of course I simply start with the same thing. I tell them the words that I think are most important, and while they are writing it down, keywords indeed, while they are writing it down, I actually at that moment do it myself. I go through my chapter or topic or book, and I just go through the words, and I'm thinking, okay, that's a key term, that's a key term. I don't really prepare this. Bad teacher. So once they are finished, I'm going to give them the 2 minutes to do this. I just do this, you know, I talk about the words, and I ask them why they think it's important. I mean, always stripe all the words, and of course, the one who has all the words first wins. And after that, because the follow-up here is also very important, I would ask them, for example, to take 3 of those words and create a sentence with that. So I would go a bit beyond this just a bingo exercise and turn it into a word to sentence exercise. which is actually this Nexus assignment. So I provide 2 words or more if you use it in combination with the bingo, and they have to create a sentence containing these words. Now, this could be very easy with, for example, subject and mathematics. You can make it more difficult by saying things like isosceles and perpendicular. Because with the second one, you simply have to know the words first, and if you don't, you have to look for them. And then you have to be able to put it into context and write a sentence containing those. So this is a great way to get them to work with the language. And some people might say, well, I need to finish my book. I need to do my maths. And that's true. I also have that problem, and I too often don't quite finish everything that I need to do. Just like my fellow teachers who don't use CLIL, by the way. So I don't think it takes a lot more extra time. This is just a great way to start your lesson, or just do it 5 minutes in between. I really don't think that if you make students work for like 40 minutes in a row, they do more work than if I make them work a lot in like 15 to 20 minutes and then do something else, and then do something else again. They will really have a hard time focusing for a long time. So I do a lot of different things in between. I heard someone say these are maths activities. No, they're CLIL activities. But I use them in my math lessons. And like the one that I started with the cards, there's actually maths exercises on them. So they actually do it. Anyway, so obviously it's for you to try and see what works. I'm not saying you have to do all of this, but just to inspire you and to make sure that that's one of the biggest negative things. So having no time to prepare it, I hope that by showing you this, you see that it doesn't really take an awful lot of extra time, because all of these things I just improvise. And also by being inspired, you might find it a lot more interesting to do all of this. So last one, I think, just checking. Yeah, it's the last one. So this is something I like to do as well. So I'm going to give them in this it was a set of assignments, but you can give them a few words as well, a few phrases, and just tell them, ask which one's the odd one out. For example, in this case, my example was, this is obviously maths, y equals x squared plus 2, y equals 3x squared, y equals 2x plus 5, and y equals negative 5x squared plus 3. I forgot to have a look at the Google Sheet a minute ago, so I'll just do it in a minute. So there's a couple of ways to tackle this problem. For example, the first one can be the odd one out because there's no number in front of the x squared. They could also say, well, the c is linear and not quadratic, so it must be the odd one out, whereas b is actually the only one without a number behind it. So what I would do here is make sure that there's not just one single answer, but again, the follow-up here, and that's what I like by doing this once or twice in lesson, the follow-up would be to make sure that they create these assignments themselves. They can think of a question, 4 phrases, or 4 calculations, or 4 things that they should be different slightly, and think of a reason why one of them is the odd one out. If they did that, I would choose one group, because they're working groups, so I would choose one group to come forward, and of course they have to present their odd one out, so the 4 options, and the other groups have to do their assignment. And that way they are communicating already in English, but they're also thinking about it, the reason why they happen to be able to explain things. Now I see that I made a typo there, it says formulas. It should be formulas, of course, with a U in between. And some people mentioned that you can do this in a variety of ways. Indeed, the topic of the general theme of this webinar was mathematics. So that's why I focus on mathematics. But there's a range of different ways to do this, of course, as well, with different words or whatever. Just going to go to the Google Sheet. There's a lot of chat box going on there. People have apparently found that there's a chat box there. Didn't even know that. Anyways, people are filling out the sheet as well. I see preparation time. A few of them are saying 2 or 3. Okay. and language involved 3s. Okay. So yeah, there is quite some language involved because they have to talk with each other. So these were 8 activities. And all of these 8, I think, can be applied to pretty much every lesson. Maybe you have to rename the math market into something else, but you get the idea. So what made this activity CLIL? Language is involved. I asked you, I created for you input, reading and listening, and you had to write down stuff. I wanted you to categorize. Actually, I wanted to rate it, which is a higher thinking skill, which is not really language, it's really about thinking. And I wanted you had to go and do active thinking. I was asking you constantly for a contribution. Now, obviously, with a webinar with over 350 people attending, it's a bit hard to make sure that everyone is attending, but I can ask you to do things instead of just, sitting back and enjoy. I wanted to trigger you to do something. So that's why I think this general activity with the 8 activities was also a CLIL activity. Normally I would obviously promote interactivity, but with speaking to each other, but that's a bit hard. If all of you would start speaking at the same time, I don't think it will work out. Anyways, next one, yes. So, now I'm going to talk about your lesson. I only have 15 minutes left. So, what I want you to do now, you can open a Word document if you want to, or some people are typing to me privately, which is great, but I can't answer that right now, sorry. So, what I'd like is write down some things. What words or phrases commonly pose a problem for students? Now remember, I'm thinking from a mathematics perspective. What do you do to help them with that, or what do you think is what do you think is a good idea that everyone can use in their lessons? So I just shared 8 of my great ideas. Maybe you have a few of yourself. So please share them in the chat so other people can see them. And as I said, in the first question, I primarily focus on mathematics. There is quite a few phrases, and this is going back to a CLIL teacher being a language teacher. There's quite a few words and phrases in maths that I'm sure that people who don't know maths and English have trouble with. I don't know where your paper is, but you can just take one, right? You're probably at a desk. So, like bisector, isosceles, the first time I started teaching and I saw the English book, I was a bit scared because I had to explain their students stuff that I didn't even know in English. I knew all of those phrases in Dutch, but they're quite different. And that's why, as a teacher, you have to put the focus on language as well, being able to explain why certain words are like that. One of the things you can talk about, for example, is the link between square and squared, which is, something times itself, which is the area of a square, because the sides of a square are always the same. The link between those two words is gone in Dutch. In Dutch, those words are vierkant and kwadraat, and they don't sound alike at all. But in English, there's a link, so you can help them understand that link. And that's how language is involved in a math lesson. And that's actually answering question 2 for myself. What do I do to help them? I try to explain what the words mean. Another one, bisector. Bi meaning to, section, dividing something. So bisector, divide something into, and there you go. A lot of people are typing in ideas in the chat, by the way, which is great. So flashcards is a great way to make sure that they remember certain words. Flipped classroom, I saw something mentioning that earlier on. Flipped classroom, the idea of giving videos with explanation and them working in your lesson. Songs, yes, I'm quite sure there's people who can sing really well. I'm not one of them, so I'm not going to do that. But I want to make sure that they don't start laughing at me immediately. Now, because of the time, let me go on. I would love to keep going, but games, I hope you see that I actually use a lot of games in my lesson. So this is something that I see in a math lesson going on very good. Students having to say 33, but instead talking about dirty trees. because they don't quite pronounce the words, the phrase the. So they would, they would do something like this. They would talk about a better tree or just trees in general. I would start drawing trees on screen. So if I want them to write down, I don't know, 73, and then they say 73, I just write down a 7, and then I start drawing a tree. And then they generally get the idea. So this is something that goes wrong in a math lesson quite a lot. Of course, teachers of English focus on the sound, and they talk about 3 and making sure that this sound is correct. But this is just a place where I experience that they have trouble with it, and I help them with it. For example, this word is used quite a lot, and I by now know that I said it wrong for a couple of years. I always said variable, but it's variable. So there's a difference there, and it's a word that's being pronounced wrongly quite a lot. So obviously it's an X or a Y or another letter, but is used in maths. But the pronunciation of that word is used quite a lot of different ways. I just explained the whole dirty 3 things, right? So I'm not quite sure why Danielle is asking about that. So accentuation. Where do you put the emphasis on more difficult work like isosceles and perpendicular? So that's something that, again, an English teacher might focus on, but they don't talk about the words perpendicular, bisector, but they focus on more grammar-like words. So I would say that more tricky words of maths and talk about how do you pronounce this, how do you say this in English, and I would ask them to say the same after me. I make my 15-year-olds say the words they find hard out loud with all of them at the same time. And if the student was very annoying, I would just ask that student to say it again, alone, just, for bullying's sake. This is the way they use. I actually was in England a few weeks ago, and I talked with a teacher about this, and even in England, they make mistakes with this. I see some people saying there is no audio. There should be, right? Yeah? Okay, good. So, so negative and minus. So, it's -3 and 6 minus 5. It's not 6 negative 5, and you don't say -4. And that's done wrongly quite a lot. So you can do 6 minus -4, but you can't do 6 minus -4. Something that goes wrong in maths quite a lot, and that's something that you have to pay attention to when you explain something. Because if you explain it wrongly, students will obviously not learn it correctly as well, and they will continue to use it wrongly in the future. Okay, something went to whiteboard. Here we go again. So, I'm not going to go anymore because I only have some time left. So, here's a few more ideas that you can use to use English in your lesson. Word to sentence with new words. So, what I would do is start with this word to sentence activity. They should have already done it before. And then I would ask them to do the same, but then with the words they don't know yet. So I just give them 2 words. I don't know, Pythagoras and hypotenuse, which are 2 words they don't know if they start in first year or at second year. And I will ask them, okay, first do some research as to what are these 2 words, and then try to put them into a context and make a sentence out of this. And that way you're already introducing some words. They have to scan the chapter, find the words, see if they understand the meaning. Obviously, if you think it's too hard, you can ask them to work in pairs. But that way you already have made sure that they are looking at the new words and putting it into context themselves. Because if they try to figure this out themselves, obviously they will remember a lot better than if you just explain them. I see pair share going through there, obviously. Think, pair, share, that's also an activity you use quite a lot, and in this case works the same way. First try it on your own, then work together, and then afterwards we share it with the rest of the group. So student-generated definitions, so I wouldn't tell them that an isosceles triangle is what's in the book. I would first ask them, okay, so how would you define an isosceles triangle? What's important to mention if you find this? Or what is a way to define Pythagoras' theorem? Or how to define a square? By making them do that, by making them use phrases, sentences in a context, and thinking about it, you already make them think about the language a lot more. Now, obviously, at the end, you have to either correct them or come up with a general conclusion with all of you. I'm not saying that you have to create your own definition and then use that definition the rest of their lives. But I want them to start thinking in that direction, and afterwards we work together and make sure that we come up with the final definition, really. Repeat after me. It's something I already said just now. It's a great way to make sure that they do pronunciation correct. And repeat after me works even with 15-year-olds. So they simply have to say the things that I tell them to in the same way that I say them. Listen and record, the final activity I want to mention right now. Listen and record is an activity where I read a piece of text and they have to write down what I say. But I will speak too fast for them to be able to write down every word. So they have to write down keywords, and then afterwards, in a group or with pairs, make sure that they come up with what I said. And I myself will have written down a few keywords, or I will think of a few keywords that need to be in there. Again, you can just improvise this by taking a piece of text from the chapter and preferably one that didn't already do, and then make sure that they close their books, otherwise they can cheat. And afterwards you tell them, okay, now open your books on, I don't know, page 4, and find that piece of text, because that's the text I just read to you, and then they have to check themselves for it. So that's a way to do it as well. I'm just throwing a lot of activities at you, hopefully inspiring you to use all of this in your lesson. So what we talked about what a good CLIL activity should involve, namely language and activity and active learning. We talked a bit, and it says discussion, but there was not that really back and forth. I was talking a bit too much again, sorry. And we were talking about CLIL and math lesson. I provided you with more than activities to use, and I provided you with some common language challenges in the math lesson, so with a dirty tree, etc. So that's basically it for my webinar. So what I want you to do now, and I hope you can find the time to do this for me, is go to the website again, clilmedia.com/webinar, and you will find that there is the third Google thing you see there, Google form for feedback. It's just a few quick questions that I would like to use to improve upon this webinar or any other way. You can also download the PowerPoint presentation from that website, and you can sign up for the CLIL Challenge, which is a free video series about CLIL. And I would really like your feedback on this webinar, so I can use it to improve. And there's one more thing in there. It also says write down something that I can help you with, because I'm always developing new things. The CLIL Challenge for videos is one example of that, but I'm also always developing new stuff. So if you have specific needs, just write it down in the form, or if you'd rather have a more direct answer, you can just contact me through my website. That's no problem, and I'll do my best to answer you. So that's pretty much it for today. I think I'm at the end. Yeah, so here we are, the website again, clilmedia.com/CLIL-webinar. You can find all the resources there that I just mentioned. We have like 1 minute left for Q&A. Thank you, Nelly. I'm not quite sure we have time for the Q&A though. So I think it's up to Letitia now.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, Patrick, thank you very much. Your presentation was just inspiring, was wonderful, very interactive, and you gave a lot of input, so thank you very much. And of course, we don't have time, and also it's a bit difficult to follow the chat and collect questions, but you have your forum where you are the king, you are the expert for 1 week, and so thanks again. So people can join you there and pose their questions and doubts. And maybe you can go on, continue talking about your wonderful website and your resources. And so thanks again for accepting cooperating with Techno CLIL for review 2017. So thanks to our participants. Thanks Daniela and Nelly, and see you in the Moodle in the forum. Okay, bye bye everyone, and bye Patrick. Thanks again.
Bye bye.